Donald Trump's conviction on 34 felony charges on Thursday night is a story that will have serious implications for the US election, but not in the way that you might expect. After a 6-week trial, Trump has become the first ever former US president to be convicted of a federal crime. 12 jurors in New York unanimously agreed that he'd falsified his business records to cover up a hush money payment to Stormy Daniels, a porn star. The court heard that Trump had paid her off after she threatened to tell the story of their alleged affair and damage his electoral chances in the run-up to the 2016 election. Some of the testimony bordered on obscene, with Daniels telling jurors about a time that she'd spanked Trump on the bottom with a magazine that he featured on the cover of. And he now faces the possibility of jail time after he's sentenced in July. We don't yet know what impact this will have on the polls ahead of the presidential election, which is happening on the 5th of November. But all the evidence so far is that Trump's convictions will only fuel his campaign, not hold him back. Since last year, he's made the prosecutions against him a central part of his campaign, arguing that there's a politically motivated witch hunt against him playing out in the state and federal courts.
Everybody, this is a case where if they can do this to me, they can do this to anyone. And these are bad people. These are, in many cases, I believe, sick people.
That argument seems to be working. In a Telegraph swing state poll conducted last month, we found that a guilty verdict would be a net boost to the Trump campaign, and that voters would support him more if they felt he had been unfairly targeted by the prosecutors. There's also been a major funding boost. Since the jury announced their decision on Thursday night, a wave of Republican mega-donors have announced that they'll pump more cash into his campaign and into his legal slush fund. If Trump is handed a jail sentence by the judge, there's nothing stopping him from continuing his campaign from behind bars. And although his candidacy would probably face some legal challenges, there is no law that says a candidate or a president can't be in prison. That would mean that Donald Trump could be in charge of the world's most powerful nation while being incarcerated by it. Trump's set to appeal the 34 convictions, which means that they'll likely be kicked up to a higher court for a second opinion. And the legal strategy of his campaign has always been to delay these proceedings for as long as possible and make as much noise about them as he can in the meantime. If an appeal is not granted, then he'll be sentenced on July the 11th, 4 days before the start of the Republican National Convention, where delegates will officially nominate him as their candidate for the election. That's the plan, at least, but everything we've learned about Donald Trump so far tells us that nothing ever goes quite the way you might expect.
We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man.